Hello.
Hello, Lady Pink. Can you see?
Hi.
Can you?
Which one of you is Brandy?
I'm Brandy.
Hey, Brandy. How are you?
Good. I can't see you.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
There. All right. It's coming now. All right.
Now we're doing something.
Yes. Thank you so. Yeah. So on this video chat, I also have Sam. Sam is a really good friend of mine. Sam has actually been a follower of yours for a long time, and in fact, often looks for trains with your name going by. But thank you so much for taking your time to do this interview for Loqu Brand. We are based out of Washington, D.C. Sam is in upstate New York, and we just have some questions to ask you.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. How old were you when you moved from Ecuador to New York City?
About 7.
Okay. What was life like in Ecuador?
I don't have much memory of my childhood like that.
Really?
It was an idyllic childhood, and before coming to the U.S., I was living in the Amazon rainforest with my mom's family. So it was a big transition from a small rural village in the Amazon rainforest to the big New York City concrete jungle.
Oh, wow. I could only imagine. Wow. And I was going to ask how was life different in New York City from your childhood in Ecuador? But obviously,
what I do remember first coming to the U.S. was my introduction to racism. So, yeah. Didn't know about that. Didn't know about that. Learned it in school. You know how mean kids could be. My mom put me and my sister in a Catholic school, full of white kids. They were cruel and evil and mean. It went on for 2 years until my sister and I started cutting school, and finally my mother realized why, because the kids were so mean and we'd come home crying every day and they were so cruel. So she put us in public school that was chock full of Puerto Rican kids and black kids and all kinds of races, and we were fully accepted there.
And you would think that
that was the introduction to the U.S. It was, okay, so I learned that I'm Latin and I'm complete trash, and thank you for the education. And, some white kids weren't like my best friend at first when I was a kid. She wasn't allowed to hang out with me because I was Latin. She was white. So, couldn't hang out with me. Eventually, her mother got over it, and we became best friends. But, again, racism, that kind of cruelty was just unheard of. And I didn't know it as a child, but, it actually does go on in Ecuador very much. The classes are very separate. The white Caucasian people are very separate from the Native Americans.
Oh, wow.
And, South Americans, but natives. Yeah, the classes are pretty strong.
Wow.
And would you say that played a large part in your activism through art?
No. What do you mean? You mean the racism that I encountered here, or what's going on in my country?
No, the racism that you first encountered here. Is that some of what?
I don't think I ever actually did too much about racism. I did more stuff about feminism, like that. I did more about that. I didn't dwell on my Latin American roots or any of that. I think I went straight for feminism because that affected me more personally on an everyday kind of,
Yes, and that's why your art definitely resonates with me. So how old were you when you did your first piece, if you will, whether it be art in any way or your first street piece?
I was 15 when I started writing graffiti. I was 16 by the time I got onto the actual subway trains, knew the right people, knew the right places to go and safe places to go, and painted some trains. And at the same time, I started exhibiting in galleries at 16.
So, oh, wow.
I started in 1979. Graffiti had been around for more than a decade. So even well before me, some of the top guys had already done the best of the best, the biggest of the biggest, and all of that. And there were heroes and villains and masters and legends. And I ended up meeting a bunch of these legends, some of the elite. These guys had already finished painting subway trains. They were done. This was around 1980. And they were moving on to galleries. And surprisingly, they felt the need for a female, and there weren't any. They looked hard for girls that can keep up with them, somebody. So someone knew one of my little friends from high school, and they came down to meet me and invited me to be in their gallery shows without even seeing my work. But I was in a high school, and you know, the little other kids swore I was good. I could do it well in books, but still not that good with spray can. You need a lot of practice. So they invited me to be in the first gallery show as a token female, and I knew I was a token female, but I was willing to play along with these guys because they were older. They were, you know, they had their own cars, their own apartments, they had money. I ditched my high school friends and moved on to, you know, how you like the older guys and such. Anyway, so they trained me to do galleries, and I continued doing subway trains, continued exhibiting, selling my paintings since I was a kid. So, but I stopped doing subway trains around 1985. I was around 21. I moved out of my mom's house and I had to earn a serious living. And the older you get, the more of a crime it is. Right. You know, at first you can go to juvenile jail, and then you grow up, you go to grown-up jail, or you get into a pickle, you know, you don't really want to go to jail. So it's no longer a game. You know, it's no longer child's play like you're doing as a teenager. So you get into a little bit of a pickle, but now you're grown up and you have to earn a living. So I had to take the art seriously and move on.
Sure.
And what gave you the courage, actually, in that time period, to get out there and paint those trains, even though you knew that obviously it was illegal and dangerous and a male-dominated industry? Is it fair enough to say now? I mean, at least.
It's always been male-dominated. It was one of the last boys' club they didn't want girls. Girls were not allowed, but it wasn't just from being malicious and being clannish. It's because doing graffiti is physically difficult for girls to do. You need to be like a trained military guy, climb big walls with a huge heavy knapsack on. You run for miles, hide underneath a bush, climb another wall, and then a fence, and then scale a bunch of rocks and then a river, and then before you get into the train yard. And then you're doing hard, ugly manual labor. You need a lot of upper body strength. Girls don't have that. For hours with your arms going like this and endless hours, you have to have nerves of steel. You can't be a little frightened, scared girly that's going to slow down the group. And underground, it's every man for themselves. So it's the same way guys feel when you bring a girl to combat. So, you know, they don't want to see a girl get killed or worse things happen to a girl. Underground, who's going to save her? You know, they feel compelled to get arrested as well, trying to save the girl because she falls down as they're running and she's like weak, and, you know, you have to prove them wrong. So the more they told me this, and for months they wouldn't take me to a train yard because you're a girl, you'll slow us down, you'll get us all get arrested, or they'll grab you, smack you up real well, and you'll sing and give up all our names.
Yeah.
That is the worst thing. You know, you have to make sure that your friends are also brave and sturdy like you. Can they take a beat down from the policeman and not sing your friends' names? Sure. Can you sit in jail for a couple of days and keep your mouth shut? So it isn't the game. It is underground. People lose their lives. People get their lives ruined, and, you know, and such. So after a while, you grow up and realize that some of the major dangers that can actually happen. You're not thinking liability or going to the hospital or anything like that, but that too, you know?
Yeah.
You don't never go do graffiti alone. You need someone to either call an ambulance or call the cops.
Wow. Very interesting, though. Yeah.
So basically, just strong determination is what got you out there.
It was sheer personality and recklessness, foolishness. I think the more they told me I couldn't, the more I had to prove them wrong. So stubbornness and just for the sake of adventure. And the more fame you got, the more you were addicted to it. So fame is addictive because with fame comes power. So if you have your name on every nightclub, best nightclub in the city, people showering you with drugs and liquor and money and buying your paintings. I had a big bank account and an entourage as a teenager. I mean, it's that stuff is heady, you know.
Yeah.
So one weekend I'm at a party with people like Keith Haring and Basquiat and Andy Warhol, and the next weekend I'm dressed like a little boy and sneaking into a train tunnel with my little teenage friends. And then I'm doing the very same thing the next weekend on a canvas, and some rich people gives me loads of money for it. And I go laughing. I just robbed them. But you know, technically, it is all just art. Art is art. Despite it being, people always ask, is it vandalism? Is it art? It's actually both.
Yes.
It's actually both. It isn't one or the other. It's just art that is in the wrong place.
Sure.
So you talked a little bit about your work as through feminism, or your work displayed of feminism, and actually, obviously, your work portrays strong, beautiful, and sometimes vulnerable women. Did you sometimes find it difficult to balance those themes?
Mm-mm.
No, you just went for it, whole hog.
I never thought of it as balancing those themes in any way.
No.
I just do what I do.
That's it.
I don't overthink it. I don't overthink it. You know, the image comes out the way I feel like doing it at the moment. I'm not, you know, stressing it. I'm not thinking, did I do a victim the last time? Maybe I should do a heroine this time. It just, as the mood hits me at that moment. And people ask me, why do I do a lot of women? It's because men are hard to draw. Women are easy. They're round, curvaceous. I know how to do it. Men, they got knuckles all over the place. I don't know where they go. I have to look it up. I'm not that sure. So girls are just round and easy to draw and pleasant to look at, and all in all. So it's just a lot of women in my art.
That's awesome.
That's beautiful. Have you ever created any works that you thought were too personal to share?
I don't have that kind of luxury. I don't have that kind of luxury to spend time on doing my own nonsense that I don't want to share.
Sure.
My diary of when I was a kid. So I kept the diary from when I kissed my first boy at the age of 13. After that, it was downhill. So up until my mid-20s. So I recorded all of that graffiti stuff, the train yards, the parties, everything is written down every single day that I wrote. I don't have memory much of it. It's all really a really long time ago. It's just a big blur of music and drugs and art and whatnot. So I have that. And it's so personal that I won't even look at it.
Wow.
Okay? It's just not yet. Eventually, a book will have to come out, one of those tell-all books. My friends fear I will put out one of those one day. Tell-all books. But it is all, you know, memory's gone, but it is all recorded down in my diaries. I think there's little drawings. There's a whole list of all the men I had. It's all there. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to see it. I don't want to be reminded of. My friends tell me stories of some stuff that I did as a kid, and I'm shocked. I can't believe what a reckless, crazy person I was, and the things I did, and it's funny now. I can laugh about it.
It's funny now, yeah.
A deep pool to draw from, anyway.
That's about it. Otherwise, everything I do is for exhibit, for show, for sale. I'm behind on my work. I have deadlines that demand for my work. I don't have time to do my own silly stuff and, you know, whatever. So it's a treat for me when I get to do things like cook something amazing or create something out of food.
Shout out to chefs.
It's not for sale. It's going to be eaten and enjoyed, and that's it. And all my creativity went into baking something cool or something like that. So you still get your creativity out, but the pressure is off. Otherwise, I'm under constant pressure to exhibit, sell paintings for loads and loads of money, and I can't do just crap.
Yeah.
You know, I have to do brilliant stuff all the time.
I understand.
So, in this whole branding.
Fell over. Yeah, go ahead.
So, branding has become a term that gets tossed around a lot, and I was wondering what your thoughts were on branding. I've kind of always thought as a tag in and of itself as a representation of the artist, and it was its own brand. Like I said, I've got some shots of Lady Pink on a couple of trains from my childhood. So did you ever think that would be a crossover? Did you think that, you know, that graffiti would sort of lead the way in branding?
No, never. When we were kids, we were just trying to figure out what to be when we grew up. We never thought that art would be a direction or that it would be a career. when it first started in the galleries and we were all selling lots and lots of paintings, we just thought it was going to be a fad and then it will stop and then we'll have to find something else to do,
Wow.
hopefully in the arts. But we never thought that we would still be doing it today, almost 40 years later.
Wow. 40 years. Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
as a branding, we never thought of it or saw it that way.
So are a lot of these men that you were painting with underground doing the graffiti, are they still doing it today too, or are you one of the lucky few to still be doing what you love?
There's no way you can sustain that. The subway trains were cleaned by around 1989. The subway trains are completely cleaned off, but most everyone also had to move on to get a job, get a career, go drop dead or go to jail.
Yeah.
Those were kind of the options, as growing up. So some of us managed to make it and survive as artists. I've never had to have a day job or anything like that. I've always been an artist my entire life. And some of my friends that I started with in the very first exhibits, which include Crash and Days and Futura and Lee and all of these guys, they're still exhibiting now. They're still circulating the same galleries and museums, and they're all doing very well.
Good for them.
Some of the guys that I was doodling subway trains with, a lot of them have had to find other jobs and were not picked up by galleries and museums, or they didn't know how to survive above ground. They were like too ghetto, couldn't trust like rich white people whatsoever, and could not, get the chip off their shoulder enough to become a salesperson. And it isn't all just pretty talent. Half of it is hustle.
Sure.
Half of it is learning business, learning how to communicate so that you can sell your art. And if you don't know how to speak beyond ghetto, then, you can only go so far.
100%.
So talented friends fall off the wayside and didn't succeed. Or move on to do other stuff, graphic designing or film or something different, but still look creative.
Sure. Yeah, you're very, very right about that. Very right.
Yeah. And I think the grind too. I think everybody romanticizes, like you were saying. I think that the idea of a girl graffiti artist is a romantic notion to some because, but nobody thinks about all the things you mentioned: running through train yards, having upper body strength, getting away, being safe. So
it's physically demanding. It's also emotionally difficult when the men half of them are very sexist and hostile, and the other half are supportive and accepting. So having to battle the whole time, prove yourself. I mean, when I first started painting, then the guys would all go running around talking about what a slut I was, and that I'd go into the train yards and do other things than paint with them. And then some guys would run around slandering me that I wasn't actually painting those trains. I was doing things to the guys, and the guys were painting it for me,
Man.
like that. So I had to go painting with different groups in every corner of New York City. Black guys from the Bronx, Latin guys from Brooklyn, white dudes from Queens. Everyone could see me painting my own goddamn train.
Yeah.
I wasn't at my knees doing guys so to get my... And, because girls' names that did appear on the subway trains were usually somebody's girlfriend. They put up their girlfriend's name, and it's given like that. And girls didn't actually do it themselves.
Right.
Too ladylike. So I had to come out in the daytime and do, public events, and everyone could see me using my own spray paint, doing my own art, doing my own thing, keeping up with the boys. And I had to prove that. So, your reputation suffers. You have to just be happy that your close friends and your family know that you're not really a hoe, a whore, that you are just normal, but everyone will talk. Guys don't go back and say, I failed when I hit up on her. They'll say, yeah, I had her on her knees.
Sure.
Yep.
You know that. So it's difficult. Your reputation suffers. I've had to tell this to all other up-and-coming young graffiti girls. He's like, what advice can you give me? Is don't let these guys trash your reputation, but when they do, hold your head up high and keep up at your business.
That's it.
There's nothing else you can do.
That's it. Yeah, that's great, because I was actually going to ask that about advice for young upcoming, artists of any way, shape, or form. So that's it.
But you also can't succeed well without support from your own homeboys, because there's only, out of a city, there's like a handful of girls and there's hundreds of guys. So you still do need support from your homeboys. But there are a lot more enlightened men and and brave and sturdy girls nowadays. So, I see it more in Europe. The guys are much more accepting and treat you with equal status. You treat the girls. But here in the Americas, not so much. But even so, it's the Latin guys and the black guys and the Asian guys who are a little more machismo and don't give their ladies, that kind of support.
Let me tell you, the same thing in kitchens. So same exact thing. So I can totally relate.
Yep. Between the language, between the being underestimated for being a woman. Both Brandy and I got this question when we were in Italy. Why are you in the kitchen? You're a woman. And I would always came back with, who's the best cook in your life? Their mothers. Every single time. They give the credit to their mother, but can't understand why a woman would stand next to them in the kitchen.
I thought Julia Child settled this back in the 50s.
You would think.
You would think. You're just barely breaking down those barriers.
It takes decades, ladies.
Yeah. It does. Yes. Just going back really quick to any other advice that you had for artists. For you transitioning from the street to the gallery, you said you were invited and at a very young age. What do you think about kids now? How do you transition from street to gallery?
The simplest way is to give away your first mural. So if you're artistic, you're saying, okay. So the first thing is you give away your first mural to someplace needy. Do it for free. With that one photo, that one nice mural, you can now go to the next wall and get paid. And then ask for more money so that you can earn some summertime work and doing store gates and small shop, the outside of shops or something like that, little spray paint, some designs. There's always needy walls. But again, that's hustle. You got to walk in with a beautiful piece of art to begin with. And that's going to hustle you another piece of art. And then they'll pay you a little bit. And then the next one, they'll pay you a little bit more. And then you learn to value yourself. Then you collect a lot more supplies. So that's a good way for any teenager, any up-and-coming graffiti artist that can earn a living, go around. Maybe you go into 10 different spots and you only get one mural. But that is something. That is an achievement. And as you're painting that one mural, people will walk up to you and offer you their walls some more. Come into the interior of my shop. Next thing you know, you're charging thousands of dollars for a mural. But it also pays to be versatile, and it pays to learn how to work with a brush, because you can't really take spray paint indoors. You have to scale down a little bit and learn how to work with a brush. So versatility and learning a different material, because if you just a one-trick pony that you can only do graffiti, you could only do lettering, you could only do style, you can only go so far. You have to be able to meet your client's needs, listen to what they want, draw something that they like, and then paint it exactly as they like it. So this is how you become a commissioned muralist. For exhibit artists, there's a lot of non-profit spaces that will give an emerging artist a chance. That means you could be nobody. You could be a complete nobody, but you got to have a body of work, at least a dozen paintings. A body of work to show that you're a serious artist. One painting, two paintings won't do. You got to have a body of work to say you're a serious artist. And then nonprofit spaces have a application system. Some of them you can just walk in the door and talk to the director and say, I'd like a show here. Some of them have a deadline one time a year or a few times a year. You submit your work, and then they'll choose you for a show later on down the line, this year, next year, a group show or something like that. Some places will give you an entire month and will give you a solo show. And this could be in some other country easily. So on the internet now, you can just hunt that down. Nonprofit spaces that give emerging artists, exhibits. And it would be a graffiti artist, a street artist would be a painter, maybe sculptor, but painter. And in New York City, we had the Department of Cultural Affairs. They always offer the booklet, and it's now online, free hanging space in New York City. And that's like a couple hundred different art spaces in New York, from small museums to big spaces, all nonprofit. They're not there to make a buck on you. You don't have to be an established artist like myself. If your stuff is good, you get an opportunity. So everything from performance art to painting, photography, sculpture, all of this, it's available. There's nonprofit spaces, and that's the bottom, where you start off. And as you get well known, then you become an established artist, and then a commercial gallery would pick you up. But then a commercial gallery would only pick you up if they know they can turn a good dollar on you. If they can sell your work for a lot of money, because they have rent to pay, staff to pay, they need to be able to make money off you. So if you're a nobody, you don't expect to sell your paintings for $5,000 right off.
Right.
You got to work that up. So because I'm selling my paintings for X amount of money, don't mean you could come out and do the same thing. This doesn't apply for street art in general. This is individual, case-by-case basis. I've worked my ass off for 40 years to get where I am, so you can't demand the same exact kind of prices right off like that, you know? You have to work things up.
Yeah, stay humble. I just feel like I got the best TED Talk, though.
I see you taking notes, Sam.
Yeah, as an artist, man. Wow, they got to enlist you. All right, so to kind of change tack just a little bit, do you think graffiti has influenced fashion at all?
I was in a great show just a few years back at the Phoenix Art Museum, and they did graffiti in fashion. And the top fashion designers have, how should I say it, ripped us off nicely and then applied it to their fashion. And some of them did justice to it. Some of them did, well, whatever. But they had loads and loads of clothes and so much fashion that the Phoenix Art Museum had a big exhibit just on graffiti in fashion.
Wow.
They borrowed a couple of my denim jackets that they had the back painted from way back then. Because even from just hand painted actual stuff to mass produced stuff to individual famous fashion designer kind of stuff like that. It was amazing, the collection. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say yeah. And they flew me down there to do a lecture and everything. This was an amazing museum too, as shiny and glossy as they get.
Wow.
So
wow,
that's just one
awesome.
example, but there's others.
Sure.
Fashion has definitely been influenced by graffiti and art and all of that. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Most definitely.
So is there a location that you would love to see your work? Maybe a specific location in the world or a specific gallery?
The subway. They have what is it? Program, you know, the transit authority where they commission actual artists to do actual subway. And you've seen all the tile work that they do in the subways, all the mosaics and all of that. That's Arts for Transit. So, you know, you apply for that, you get a few $100,000 to get your artwork on there, but you have to literally hire a mosaic company to transfer your design into mosaics, and then they put it up. So it wouldn't be actually me putting it up, but it's my design. And a friend I know, Jane Dixon, she got one. She got her images on up there and stuff like that. I love this. I want one of my brick ladies laying down across the whole length of a train station. And
I want one of your brick ladies.
Instead of a subway station, like I would like my work in there. But the application process is lots of paperwork, and artists hate paperwork.
Yes.
Goodness. So my husband assists me with everything, and even he's computer literate, and he'll do paperwork, but even that is a lot. I might have applied for that once a really long time ago.
Well, it's time to get back to it because we would love to see it too.
So I'm going to push for that. I'd like to see it on a subway train, but the trains are all stainless steel nowadays. A friend of mine got to paint a Paris subway train legally, commissioned by France to paint a subway train. That's also nice. But he also, I think it was Futura, he also got to paint a plane.
Oh,
I would like a plane. I can't say no to that. So anyway.
The Lady Pink plane.
Oh, I love the wish list.
But all in all, where I'd like to see my name is carved like crop circles across like most of Kansas so that you can see it from space. I'm not super much.
Sam, you get right on that.
That's too much to ask.
That's the next level.
You're almost there, though. You're almost there. You got
it. So maybe let's take it a little bit back to the very beginning. But what kind of artists actually influenced you?
As a kid?
Yeah.
Kid, huh? Okay. A great influence on me was actually not an artist, but it was Anne Bonny, female pirate. Her name was Anne Bonny. She was an actual pirate from the 18th century. a redhead, and she was, hanging out with all the pirate guys doing pirate stuff. She was beautiful. She was a governor's daughter, long red hair and a sword, and she was an actual person. So she influenced me greatly in I guess, the feminist way. But I didn't really know too many artists as a kid that influenced me in that way. I was surrounded by all my friends, all the graffiti influence and references. We had a particular painter we liked, Frank Frazetta. He did warrior women and women battling tigers and beautifully oil painted artwork that we all admired. But we also liked underground comics a lot. Van Baudet was one. He was a cross-dressing, transvestite, crazy person from the 1970s and did the most amazing underground comics, and that had a huge influence on graffiti. He killed himself in the mid-70s, I believe. Oh, wow. So we know his son. I actually painted with his son.
That's so cool.
Anyway, so that was a huge influence on us, I suppose. Some obscure artists, Van Baudet, Frank Frazetta. He did do a film. Boris Vallejo. Some of these realistic painters painting muscular women, muscular men, and like the Conan the Barbarian style of artwork. Sure. Something like that, but beautifully oil painted, gorgeous works. So that influenced me. And then someone told me that my work resembled Georgia O'Keeffe. I'd never heard of her. I had to look her up. I saw her work, and I'm like, oh my God, it does. My one beautiful orchid I did at the age of 16 actually looks like one of Georgia O'Keeffe's pieces. Really? Amazing. So I learned all about her, and she became my hero. Not just her artwork, but her lifestyle. In the 1920s and the 1930s, she lived like a strong, fierce feminist, and I just love her. So Georgia O'Keeffe was a huge influence once I learned who she was.
Wow. And do you have anybody today who inspires you?
Oh, that's hard to say. I'm loaded with books and books and books.
Yeah, I can tell because you're looking both sides. Books there, books here.
I have a bookcase on this side, a bookcase on that side. I bought lately. You know what inspires me a lot, just in general, is all the young women painting and all the amazing large stuff that I see on the internet that they do. Murals that are 8 stories tall, and I'm talking stories and buildings and giant stuff. I admire chicks like the German girl, Maxi. My friend Blue from Sweden. She's in town. She called me a couple days ago. She's been painting giant penises all over New York City. And I mean like a couple of stories size penis. And then it was on the news, and they had to blur the penis. Because and she is notorious for painting vaginas, like Georgia O'Keeffe vaginas. Beautiful, flowery, on the sides of buildings, 3-4 stories tall. So now she's brought her vaginas and penises over to New York. I'm so proud. So, and then my protege, Muck, she is living out west now. She's got a little house in Venice Beach, but she travels the country and paints a mural like every day, it seems. Outrageous stuff and huge stuff. She'll paint a burnt out car, like put a red bow on it and a ribbon like it's a present, but it's a burnt out car. She'll paint a refrigerator. She'll paint anything that is standing still. Beautiful, gorgeous murals. And for Art Basel in December, we were in Miami. She tells me, look, I'm doing a portrait of you. Come, you got to come see it. You got to come see it. It's 5 stories tall.
Wow.
They had to drag me, kicking and screaming to pose for photos in front of it. And sure enough, she did a portrait of me, 5 stories tall, from this famous photo of me that says, abuse of power comes as no surprise on a T-shirt. It's become a popular image lately, and she did that. She's a beast.
I'm gonna look that up. That was in Miami.
These younger women are what is inspiring me and keeps me going. They all give me tribute to having encouraged them and inspired them to start to begin with. So all of their achievements are kind of like my achievements, and the amazing thing that they found the strength and courage to do, and me blazing those trails that's what encourages me and keeps me going. So when they send me, a stranger sends me a photo, look what I did, and I send them back just a sentence or two, great job that they did, keep it up, way to go, girl. And all of that counts. All of that inspires me and keeps me going.
Wow. That's awesome. Yep.
Wow, I mean, I feel like I've got a litany of stuff of other artists I've now got to look up. I mean, this constant education you're giving me. Thank you.
All of these people are on my Instagram, actually. So I think I might.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
My Instagram. Yeah, Muck is there and such.
So you seem entirely too busy for me to even ask this question, but I'm going to. Do you have any hobbies outside of art?
I collect miniatures. I've been cooking a lot lately. I have pets, and I do gardening. My own vegetable garden and flowers and such. I spend loads and loads of more time than I admit on my garden. But vegetable it takes attention. You gotta manage your vegetables and such. My husband's a vegetarian, so that works out. Growing all the homegrown vegetables and So what other hobbies do I have? That's about it. I think I can play a lot of video games. Is that a hobby?
Some would definitely say yes.
It keeps us young and it keeps us lately it actually shooting and killing it. You get all that. You watch some news in the morning and then you feel like you need to shoot things and
get some of that aggression out.
So it does help get that anger out and.
Yep, understood.
But otherwise, it's just art. I'm always surrounded, backed up with art. I think so. I also live upstate. Where do you live?
I'm in Buffalo, New York.
Way up there. No, I'm near Newport. I'm at least 2 hours north of New York City, but I'm also in the country now.
Oh yeah, I'm actually right in the city, but I'm literally 20 minutes from the Peace Bridge. I walk up the street and the Peace Bridge is right there. So, but I'm also Canadian. I was born in Canada, and I came over here when I was 7. I still feel like an immigrant in this country. So I
feel like a tourist when I go back to Ecuador.
I bet.
I feel way more American.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's actually part of the next, I guess, couple of questions, but sort of a lightning round, I guess, but you can elaborate if you wish. Just politics. Want to talk about them?
So I got a survey call from someone asking me questions about what's your approval rating of Donald Trump, and do you think that he is a humble man? I laughed for almost 5 minutes straight, asking me, do I think he's a humble man?
Yeah, that was not the question to ask.
Oh my God, asked me all sorts of questions about this man. I could not be more honest. I'm horrified. So I painted a mural in Miami and Art Basel, and I did fat Donald Trump in a diaper. It's leaking yellow onto the Constitution. There's little tweets coming out of his mouth, and he's holding a tiki torch. So, I said it straight out. Here it is. And then the whole wall says resist. And inside the letter I was Donald Trump, but inside all the other letters, there was more going on. One letter was about feminism and women's rights, about immigrants, about the environment, about all the disaster relief, and all how he screwed that up. There's a brown hand drowning. And some little kid asking me, why is that a brown hand drowning? And that's because Donald Trump has not been very nice to people of color. What do you tell a 10-year-old?
Yeah.
It's right. The truth. So it asked me to summarize it in one word, the survey. I said disaster. Disaster, what's been going on every single day. He does something atrocious it's mind-boggling. I used to love this country and be proud of this country, even when Bush was president. I did a mural and I depicted Bush as a little monkey. I say it how I feel, holding Statue of Liberty by a dog collar, and he was taking our civil liberties. Lady Liberty was his whore. So I laid it out then too. And then we had this wonderful man, Obama, that when you put that alongside Trump, I just want to cry. I miss them so much.
I think half the world cried.
Brought to the office and respectability, everything gone. Now we have a con man on board that is destroying our country. When we go abroad, we have to apologize. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Not my fault.
No, it's very true. Very true.
I used to apologize for Bush, but now we're like it. We had our faces. It's the most embarrassing situation. Well, it's horrifying. So hopefully the Russian investigation will result in something. And if not full impeachment, he'll have to resign. But then Pence isn't all that much better. But we hope they take him down too. And then who gets it?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We're through. America will never be great again. China has just stepped into our shoes right there. That's it. Those are our new overlords anyway.
Yeah.
We're indebted to them.
Yep.
It's over.
Yeah.
Sad but true.
I also worry about China also stealing my work. I get so many offers that come from China that none of them are legit.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
But there is pretty much, if you don't work with us, we're going to steal your shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Not much you can do.
Yeah. Okay, so another hot topic, religion.
I'm atheist.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe in organized religion. I'm not down with that nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you.
I gave up my religion at the age of 12. Fully aware of that. Nope. Not having this crazy Christian stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I was booted from Catholic school.
I didn't know that about you, Sam.
Okay, so our last quick one, fashion. Obviously, you talked a little bit about some of work that you've done along the lines of fashion being included in a gallery showing. But what are your opinions on fashion? Do you is there certain stuff you love? Do you is there anything, a piece in your wardrobe?
I am not a fashion plate. Never have been.
No.
I'm unfortunately, I get paint on everything I own, and artists just dress like bums. And
Right.
I had to dress up for all those parties and all that fancy stuff, but I'm not thrilled about the bras and the high heels and that tight restricting clothing that women have to wear. I like
or the men these days wearing the tight restrictive clothing too.
So the fact that we even have to put on high heels to be taken seriously or well respected, or that kind of the statement, I feel is still setting us back.
I agree with you on that.
Pissed every time I have to put on my high heels, but when I don't, I get treated like a scrub.
Yeah.
And when I'm wearing my high heels, you get treated like a lady.
Sad but true.
Right.
More, I don't know. It's just that the whole fashion myth. But I do have some nice clothes, just enough to get by. I'm not a big, I don't shop a whole lot of stuff. I'm not a big fashion plate by any sense. But when I have to, I do dress up nice and. But I get paint on everything. Oh my goodness.
Gone are the 1920s smocks that artists wear, right?
No, but not even. I'd show up to an event and I'm dressed up real nice and they pull out paint. And here, paint a little thing. Or here's some markers, do some tags or do something, and suddenly my clothes is just, nice clothes is all ruined too. And it's like, maybe the guys can just, grab paint and start doing it, but I'm dressed nicely for a reason.
Right, because they're wearing a $3 shirt and you're wearing a $100 dress.
Yes. Now there's paint on it, and then I realized it wasn't even my dress, it was my sister's. Oh. She hates me. She hates me for that.
That's funny.
So would you give credit to anybody in your life who a real person who encouraged you and supported you along the way, that you might give credit to, just shout out?
Yeah, it would have to be my first boyfriend in graffiti, Lee. He was the king of graffiti, and he took me under his wing for about 4 years. We were dating 4 years, but he took me under his wing and showed me the ropes above ground, the galleries, the museums, everything above ground. And the movie Wild Style, that's the first motion picture that came out about hip hop, about graffiti, breakdance, rap. That's the movie called Wild Style. So they wove our love story into the film. It's about, a big part of the plot in my love story with him. And we have a big kiss in the film, and I played lead actress in that, and opposite him and stuff. And we had a very stormy relationship. They called me the queen of graffiti. He was the king of graffiti. And we were always on and off, on and off. When I break up with him, I'd go painting subway trains with my little friends, which he hated because it was so dangerous. then he'd see my name running, I'd be in trouble. He'd get hanging out with this boy and that boy. I said, you can hang out with them, and then we'd get back together. It was just, the personalities were too strong, and I was a feminist, and he was clearly not. He thought you treated a girl like back in I Love Lucy and the Honeymooners. And I wasn't having that. So he's responsible for shaping me into what I am. I probably wouldn't be an artist if he hadn't showed me how. Painting subway trains was not enough. Learning how to talk to adult white people in the above ground world, how to sell your work, how to price yourself, how to stretch a canvas, how to go buy a canvas, how to do every little thing like that to be a successful artist early on.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it Lee's arrest that kind of got you started as far as just?
No, that my very first boyfriend was this guy who wrote Coke. I was 13 till I was 15. At 15, he was shipped off to Puerto Rico. That was my first love, and I started writing his name because of him. I cried for a month, writing his name around the middle school and stuff. And then, but by the time I went to high school, my new friends decided that name sounded like a boy name, and I needed a girl name, so they gave me Pink. And because the cake kicks out in a nice style, so that was my very first love. My first boyfriend in graffiti was this guy Lee. He was my first serious boyfriend till I was 20 or so. So he kind of shaped me as growing as a teenager. The hard way. He showed me, the hard way, like that.
Yeah.
So you had to outgrow that. That love shouldn't hurt that way.
Exactly. Exactly. Wow.
Life lessons.
Yeah. Never again.
Yeah.
No, I married a nice genteel man, a white guy. not a crazy, jealous Puerto Rican.
I read that you and your husband had started finding legal spaces for kids. So this book that I have kept for 12 years, that I knew you from, has that mention. So I was kind of curious if you guys still did any of the, has that evolved at all?
I don't know how that exactly is worded, but we would get permission walls for ourselves and our friends.
Oh.
And I do mural workshops with teenagers. So I would get walls to work with the teenagers, but I was mostly working for 12 years with the Frank Sinatra School of the Arts.
Oh, wow.
So these are high school art students already, and with their teachers, and I do after school programs at their school, and then once a year we would do big giant murals on site in the community. So yes, I would find murals for kids, and I get an art education grant, so I do still paint murals with kids, and in April I'm scheduled to paint inside of a high school in New York City with some students. So every year there's a murals, I schedule murals and walls and such like that, but to find a wall to let a kid just do whatever the hell they want, not exactly. That's more for us adults, what we call permission walls, and we invite other friends, everyone, here's your space, do whatever you want. No one's asking to see a design, no one's paying you, so you bring your own supplies, and this is complete freedom to express yourself, and no one can say anything. So it's a lot of fun to paint with your friends in a recreational way. So we're new recreational painters. We don't want to go to the beach or to the park or go to a movie. We just want to get together with our friends and paint some big old wall, half a block in New York City, and we call that fun.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that sounds like fun to me too.
It is. It's a lot of fun.
So is there besides these projects that you do yearly, is there any other new exciting artwork that you want to make sure that you give a shout out to, you mention here?
For people who like this stuff, a nice event that happens is mid-June. It's called Welling Court Mural Project in New York City, and that's in Astoria, and that is like over 150 walls get painted. It's right in mid-June. It's a festival, and I have a wall there, and I paint it every year. but there's over 100 artists painting blocks and blocks as far as you can see around this corner, around that corner. Everyone is painting, lots of art going up at the same time. The energy is just amazing, and it's open to the public. You can just walk up and watch the artist painting and watch art being created on the spot, or year-round the walls are up, so you can visit Loqu Mural Project anytime and walk around for a while and give a tour of some real nice-looking street art. And good work breeds better work and breeds brilliant work, and everyone is competing with each other to top each other. So it's just really, really, the top of the line kind of stuff that happens. It's in mid-June, and it's open to the public, to everyone in New York City, everyone.
Very nice.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, those are all of my real written down questions. I feel like I have got a million more for you, but I certainly don't want to take up all your day. But I personally just want to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to have this chat with you and to get my own personal Lady Pink TED Talk. I think that's pretty rad.
Yes. And thank you very much here at Loqu Brand. We really, really appreciate it too. I know we took an hour out of your day, so thank you very, very much.
That's okay. I get an art education grant, like I mentioned, and I Skype with kids from all over the world. There's so many of them write me. They're writing a paper, a project, or something, so I Skype with them all the time, so I can put aside a little bit of time to maybe art educate you a little bit.
I tell you what, you surely educated me. There are so many names I'm going to look up now.
All right.
Thank you so
Yep,
much.
some I knew, some I didn't know. That's awesome for me.
Yes, but
thank you so much too. I mean, just putting your time out there. I mean, not only for us, but I've got to say for the kids, because I'm a 6'3", very curvy girl who absolutely loves seeing herself represented in a book, in a mural, on a page. It's kind of I want to fangirl for a second, but I mean, you really are an inspiration, and I like I said, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, and thanks Thanks Loqu Brand, thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. Nice chatting with you.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.